problems with my electrical apparatus. See, I keep it plugged in here, but I think the charge is not strong enough to sustain this iPhone. Uh, it can't sustain the charge, I don't think, while I'm broadcasting. Not the level of charge to keep the battery charged. I think these new iPhones take lot more electricity than the old ones. Because I never had a problem before when I broadcasted being low on energy, almost empty electricity charge, and plugging my phone in and continuing the broadcast. So I'm noticing with these new iPhones, when they get low, if you're broadcasting, they will just shut off. And I know the plug is working because I see the lightning bolt symbol on the battery. So you're receiving a charge. So it has to be that the phones have either this charge coming from this whatever it is 220. What? Emailing me. What the fuck you emailing me? Anyway, yeah, it's either the source or the battery, and I don't think it's source. Therefore, I think it's just battery uh, can't hold a residual charge that will also maintain the phone while it's using certain apps. It's really draining a lot of battery power, and the wall source the chargers can't keep up with it. But no problem, because I just let it get a little bit of a charge for like 5 or 10 minutes. Then I go back on, and then it may go dead again. I don't know, but at any rate, I mean, it's so in conclusion, I would say one, read the book Living Buddha, Living Christ. I'm listening to the audio book right now. Uh, as I said before, it will do nothing but bless, edify, and increase who and what you are coming in contact with certain knowledge. I mean, understand where I come from. Me telling you to read Living Buddha, Living Christ is the same as me telling you to learn arithmetic and algebra because it will help you understand this reality better. It's similar to that, okay? And it should be because wisdom is wisdom, knowledge is knowledge. Simple as that. And to be afraid of wisdom and knowledge is a form of ignorance. Because according to our own teachings, the source of good and bad is according to certain religions, is the same source. And each thing contains a component of the other, yin and yang. The black circle creates the white dot, and the white circle creates the black dot. Each thing at its extreme pole emerges from the other, right? So to be afraid of a continuum of knowledge is just, you know, it's childish and it's ignorant. And until that fear that creates that is dealt with, you cannot learn. You cannot grow. You cannot continue. You can fool yourself, okay? You can fool yourself into thinking you're growing. You can fool yourself into thinking that you're acquiring wisdom. But I remember in medical school, there was this thing written on the blackboard down in the gross anatomy lab. And basically what it said was, it is the nature or purpose. I'm totally going to misquote this. Is it the nature of God to hide a thing, and it's in the nature of a king to uncover and explore a thing? And when I read that years ago in medical school, it reinforced my path and my journey that was ahead of me and what it would take. I wasn't naive about it. Knowing yourself and your faults, your motivations, and seeing the same thing in every other human being around you is a blessing beyond description. To have that ability, to have reached that point in your journey, because it eliminates the need for a lot of rhetoric, things being explained over and over and over from a different perspective. Because one kid in the back of the class doesn't get it, but we all, at one point, some point in each moment, are the kid in the back of the class, right? That's what makes it so difficult. Is everyone's assuming I'm not the kid in the back of the class. I'm in the front row. I'm smart. You smart till I put you in fifth grade. You a fourth grader. Let me fast forward you to the last few weeks of the fifth grade in the final exams. You will fail. And then what happens? Will you be sad? Will you cry? Or will you go back to where you stopped in the fourth grade, pick up the pieces, and continue on? That will be the proper attitude for learning, right? The beautiful thing to me about this reality we live in is that everything has some relation to everything else. It is profound, it is profound, and it is beautiful, and it is mysterious. And it always has been those things and always will be those things. Okay? And when we try to minimize any aspect of this reality because of our own level of understanding, we are just putting tremendous stumbling blocks in our own path. And no one's putting them there except ourselves. And sooner or later, what happens is suffering ensues. Self imposed suffering that generally, like head lice, will spread to those around us and infest those around us, which we have to make as an observation because that's what we see. Ignorance is contagious. The ability to not acknowledge our own ignorance and to continue on the path of learning, knowledge, wisdom, I think it requires a certain attitude. We're human beings. There's an intangible aspect to what we are. So when we talk about humility, altruism, all that bowing they do to each other in the East, in the West, we don't do that. But by not doing that, the whole foundation of true learning is completely, usurped. It's completely usurped. And once we recognize that in the West, at some point in the future, I think we will approach racial relations differently, class relations differently, sex, male female sex relations differently, elder and child relations differently as far as how we learn from and teach our young ones, environmental relations differently, galactic interrelations, cosmic interrelations, relations with our ultimate being differently. It's easier to work from principles than to try to memorize the whole Webster's dictionary of reality. And some people, their approach is to try to memorize the whole Webster's dictionary of reality. And then once they memorize a good portion of it, they start talking about the rest of it. But hold up, wait a minute. You only got to C and D. Now you talking about Z. Can you really do that? Yeah, I'm not saying you can't, but there's a way to know Z before you get to Z, right? And that way, Taoism, Tao, the way, has been taught. And it never ignores light for dark. It never ignores hate for love, and vice versa. That has to become your being. That wisdom has to become your being. How you think, breathe, eat, exist in this multiverse. When that way of thinking and being becomes you, the wisdom and knowledge that you acquire changes in the amount, quality, type, levels of wisdom that you understand simultaneously. You're not just seeing it from a carnal standpoint. The Bible talks a lot about the carnal mind because the carnal mind has a certain way of analyzing reality, coming to conclusions, and then acting on those conclusions. I, torture people, kill them, hang them on crosses, Spanish Inquisition, transatlantic slave trade, indentured servitude, class systems, royal class, lowly potato farmer. You know, this is what the carnal level of understanding has created for human beings on planet Earth. And ignorance and suffering are like fertilizer for each other. They're like fertilizer for each other, and they just reinforce each other. And then we're functioning from that point, whereby our pristine level of understanding and consciousness and perception is diluted, clouded, muddied, muddied by our inability to recognize self, self, and the components of self, you know, and how they change in each moment, how they're never ever standing still. The impermanence of this reality, basically. Buddha nature. Each person has Buddha nature, living Buddha, living Christ. It's beautiful and nourishing to be able to go from one tradition to another tradition. It's similar to looking at a car from the top with a flashlight, and you cannot see the transmission or the alternator, and you're trying to work on it. What do you have to do? You have to take your flashlight and move around the engine to another point to illuminate the transmission or the alternator, whatever you're working on, and then you can work on it. But only after you change the position of your light source. Same thing goes on with the mind. Understanding rote academic knowledge in the same sense that you understand what in the fuck is she talking about, man? Ma, ma, you know, she just texted me said I'm worried about you. Is she fucking mental? The female doctor that texted me earlier. No, that's bullshit. That's manipulation, man. That's manipulation. That's well, then just fucking write it or text it. Yes, you can. There's nothing we can't say to each other on Google Gmail that we can't say in person. The only reason people want to talk to you in person is they feel a need to manipulate you with their words and they want something. You will learn this as you get older, as I have learned it throughout my years. People play all kinds of different games. All kinds of different games, man. I mean, especially people who aren't your friends. These people are relations, man. And they try to put themselves in the place of a friend. Well, you haven't done the requirements, things that friends do. So how can I call you friend? Right? No, that's the thing though. That's the thing. I talk to you when I want to talk to you. Unless I'm in prison or on the rack. And even then I have a choice. I may choose silence. You know, this is not like a boss talking to a subordinate. It's not. That's not what it is. Any rate, y'all see the levels that this game takes place on. You know what's sad is that I'm really recovering from a pretty serious illness, and I actually really need this time uh, to recover, to really spend with myself, to heal. And people, they honestly make their own assumption about when you're ready. Like if you were that worried about me, why didn't you call me after I had the event? Why are you waiting like 2 or 3 months down the line, and then you worried now? I mean, this ain't rocket science, man. This is basic social psychological assessments of relationships and people and their intent. Things aren't spoken in words, you know. And if you aren't in a position of authority, a lot of times people don't give a shit. They can't get anything out of you. You can't give them what they need. So they don't bother you, right? They don't bother you. But if you're in the workplace and in that kind of a position, that's the kind of shit you're going to be dealing with. Even after your heart attack or your stroke or your fucking diagnosis of cancer, people are going to be playing the same bullshit games they played. One of the first things I said when I came out of my near death experience was, wow, people, regardless of what they see happen in front of them, they do not change. Which I'm not surprised because I know my history. People watch millions and millions of other human beings die and get tortured and sat by and did nothing until something moved them or affected them. We need to be aware of this attitude in our relationships so that we're not doing that. It's genuine. It's from the heart and from the mind. It's purposeful, it's on point, and it's efficient. All those things should be present in human relationships and equally for both parties. It shouldn't be that for this person, they have to be extremely inefficient so that you can be efficient. Because when you look at the sum total, the whole thing is inefficient. Because you have to look at it from the sum total, not just from the perspective of this person and that person. Okay. That's why the ability to see reality for what it really is a tool, necessary tool, the tool you need on the spiritual path. And that path turns into so into marriages, schools, workplace relationships, friends. It affects every relationship we have. The relationship we have with ourselves and our the higher levels of self. That's why I think our religions all boil down to love, because that's a language that's all encompassing, and we often forget the details. But once we remember love, all other motivations fall into place, and things happen in the best possible way that they can happen when love is involved. when it is involved in any way, shape, or form. True love, not fake love. Altruism is a type of love, unselfish concern for the welfare of others, also known as altruism. But people feign, feign fake altruism. Very well, they fake it. They've been doing it for a long time, and a lot of people have Grammys. I'm sorry, Oscars at faking altruism. Unfortunately, this is the world we live in. This is the path we walk on. These are the obstacles that are in front of us that we have to navigate via our own skill, via our own understanding, via our own wisdom. So we'll do more Living Buddha, Living Christ, and I actually will pull the book out eventually when we do these talks. But I needed you guys to understand that I don't need a book about living Buddha, living Christ to live Buddha, live Christ. So I came and I interacted and talked and discussed with you my understanding, uh, my perspective on reality. So you can see how it has been affected by studying each system, each culture. That's the best way, I think, for people to learn. Otherwise, I'm just taking Thich Nhat Hanh's words and interpreting them. But how has that affected me, my thinking? That's why I'm giving people insight into how I think about reality. I'm giving you insight into my private mechanisms of my mind, right? Because that's what you're supposed to do if you claim to be a child of God or a Buddha. The Buddha was silent, but he spoke eventually because that was compassion for others and all other sentient beings. So be blessed. Be blessed. I really hate talking when, when people are on business calls around me. It's like an intrusion in my privacy, but my wife doesn't seem to understand that. So, but I will go into the fucking bedroom. At any rate, yeah, man. And it's not that the person on the phone can't hear what I'm saying and benefit from it. I'm just old school, man. Just etiquette. Just etiquette. That's all. Uh, anyway, yeah, we will talk about things from the book, read from the book. Uh, but we don't all. Even if I memorized the whole Bhagavad Gita, all the Vedas, the whole Christian Bible, memorized every word, and was able to spit it to you chapter and verse, the only thing that would matter is how transformative that knowledge was to me, on me. And since every level of that wisdom is transformative, we don't have to keep trying to accumulate bags of pearls. One pearl is very valuable and transformative. You don't think so? You're a poor family in Africa or somewhere, America. You sell a perfect pearl for thousands of dollars. Now you're eating. Now you have room and board. It is transformative, each pearl. And the contemplative takes each pearl and sits and spends time with it, understanding that what he or she is trying to achieve is just as much achieved by one truth as 1,000 truths, right? So with that, I will say namaste, be blessed, salam alaikum, in the language of my ancestors. I really want to learn Sanskrit too for some reason because I'm learning more and more about it. How it was a language that was necessary for our languages to evolve. So I don't know. Even learning some, when you learn languages, I think what's left out is learning how that culture thinks about communication. Even if you don't memorize all their dictionaries and their phrases, is extremely important and enlightening. And so that makes it, I think, valuable and a source of inspiration and a source of understanding when we study other languages that aren't our birth language. Just like studying religions that aren't our birth religion is enlightening. So with that, I will say namaste until next time, my brothers and sisters in Christ and my brothers and sisters in Dharma.